My name is Jim Kringlen. I'm the managing attorney with Iowa Legal Aid in our Iowa City regional office. We are a statewide nonprofit law firm with 10 offices around the state. What we are is a civil legal services provider. We don't handle any criminal defense work. That's basically what the public defender does. If you're poor and you're charged with a serious crime, you are entitled to a court-appointed attorney. On the other hand, if you've been battered by your partner, your spouse, or you're being evicted by your landlord, or your landlord won't fix things that need to be repaired, or your wages are being garnished because some used car dealer sued you, things of that sort, or you need a divorce from your abusive partner, you are not entitled to a court-appointed lawyer for any of that. So that is where we come in. And we provide that service free of charge to low-income people and other vulnerable Iowans, as many of those cases as we can. So we're a very limited resource. We have 5 lawyers in the Iowa City office, but we handle cases in 7 counties. So we have to turn away a lot of people with no service and a lot more with less service than they really do need. And so we provide people with the tools to help themselves to figure out how to solve their legal issues without a lawyer representing them. We have lots of resources to help them do that. We have booklets that explain the law and give information that is written for lay people. So to help people know how to go to small claims court, for example. Best way now to seek our services is by calling. We take phone applications, and we've done that for many, many years. Every business day, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 11 in the morning, and then again from 1:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon, except we don't have an intake shift on Thursday afternoons. People can save a little time by going to our website and applying there. We still have to have a phone call to follow up with a lot of information, but you can get a good start by going to iowalegalAid.org, and we have a portal there where you can apply online. Iowa Legal Aid gets funding from over 100 different sources. So the biggest funding source is still from the Federal Legal Services Corporation, but it is well less than half of our total funding now, which is a very large change from 45 years ago when we first began. But today, our second biggest funding source is the state of Iowa. Since 1996, the legislature and governor have supported our work with an annual appropriation. It varies in amount, but it's significant, and it has greatly expanded our capacity and helped fill some of the holes from the reductions from the federal side. Locally, the Iowa City office receives funding from the United Way of Johnson and Washington counties, of course. We also receive funding from the Burlington, West Burlington area United Way and many other United Way organizations around the state. We receive funding as well through the Iowa Supreme Court's Interest on Lawyer Trust Accounts Commission. We receive a lot of funding from lawyers and bar associations and law firms. And in the last 15, 20 years, we have had an increasing number of companies, corporations, businesses recognize the importance of our services to the communities where they do business. And so many of those companies have been providing financial support for our mission for many years now. In terms of our fundraising, we have an annual event called Equal Justice After Hours. We've also had golf events where both Drake University Law School and the University of Iowa Law School sponsor a fundraising event. Lots of other fundraising goes on all the time where we submit grant applications to community foundations, for example, as well as to counties and cities that support our work with grants of different kinds. Iowa Legal Aid has for at least 30 years involved volunteer lawyers. That is a very critical piece of our service delivery model. So lots of lawyers in the community who support our work. We also use volunteers in other capacities. We have AmeriCorps members who receive just a stipend, but they provide service. We've had AmeriCorps members for the last 15 years, every year. In the past, we have had volunteer receptionists. We've also used volunteers in many other roles, including serving on our board of directors, serving on our local office advisory councils, and other ways, such as court reporters who volunteer their time. And when we have a deposition, they may provide their services and report the deposition free of charge. Sometimes they'll reduce their charge, that sort of thing. One of the things that has impacted our work the most in this pandemic is the increased number of people who need assistance with housing. It was low-income people that were affected most commonly by the economic disruptions of the pandemic. So lots and lots of people found themselves with no income. They were sometimes having trouble accessing unemployment insurance benefits. So Iowa Legal Aid had to focus a lot of its services and energies toward housing and toward unemployment insurance claims. And in order to do that, what we had to do was restrict the other kinds of cases that we would typically handle. What we have learned from the pandemic is that it is important to be nimble. And Iowa Legal Aid was very nimble in how we were able to respond. We had recently adopted new technology where every staff had a laptop, and that made it very easy to access everything from home the same way as our staff did at the office. Iowa Legal Aid collaborates with a myriad number of organizations. Our longest standing ones include like the Domestic Violence Intervention Program, DVIP, locally, Family Resources in some other counties like in Muscatine and Burlington. We also have collaborated very closely with Shelter House since the pandemic revealed the housing crisis that many low-income Iowans are facing. And so our collaboration with Shelter House has included our development of a help desk, we call it, at the Johnson County Courthouse, which we are staffing every Monday afternoon when eviction hearings are held. And so Shelter House has been able to help people access local funding from the city and from the county to offer to landlords if they will agree to accept some short-term financial assistance, rent for a month or two, in exchange for postponing or dismissing eviction cases, to give time for the sometimes many months long wait in accessing the Iowa Rent and Utility Assistance Program. Shelter House has been able to address a lot of the eviction cases, and the ones that they aren't able to resolve, then we are there and we represent many of them at the actual hearing. We don't have enough lawyers to represent every low-income person in Johnson County that needs a lawyer and needs timely access to an attorney. So we have many booklets that we give to people free of charge if they're low income and eligible for our help. Rights of debtors is one, elder abuse and financial exploitation. We also have a hotline for older Iowans. So almost every county in Iowa, we have funding that allows us to provide at least advice to an Iowan who is 60 or older, even if they're not low income. A Guide to Landlord and Tenant Law in Iowa, that's our most popular book. Child Custody and Visitation in Iowa, Divorce Law with Children, Domestic Abuse and the Law. We also have a booklet about bankruptcy. We do a limited number of bankruptcy cases for people where that's the only remedy that's available to them to prevent them from having their wages garnished so that they can't afford basic living expenses. That's just a summary of a lot of the booklets that we have that explain the law for people so that they can advocate for themselves. Most of that information is on our website, and anybody can access that, iowalegalAid.org.